The US puts out a warning about Chinese hackers on the mainland here of the United States after they just caught some Chinese hackers. I'll give you the details of this here. It's actually pretty alarming. And this comes here as in Ukraine, President Zelensky's office responds to the Chinese envoy's call for the occupied territories in Ukraine to be given to Russia. Just straight give them to Russia. Here's what they're saying here. Check this out. So this guy, Mykhailo Podolak, the advisor to the head of the office of the president of Ukraine, has responded to the call of Liu Hai, the Chinese government's special representative for a ceasefire in Ukraine, through, quote, recognizing the occupied Ukrainian territories as Russia's. Basically, giving this land to Russia and turning the people over to Russia and all the resources, thereby giving everything to Russia of the land that Russia occupies. Quote from Podolak, any compromise scenario envisaging the liberation of not all territories of Ukraine, which, quote, anonymous sources in the European and American elites periodically talk about, is tantamount to admitting the defeat of democracy, the victory of Russia, the preservation of Putin's regime, and as a consequence of sharp increase in conflicts in global politics. Podolak said this is all Russia's cherished dream. The question is rhetorical. Why do individual public actors keep playing the Russian media scenario and protracting the conflict? Earlier, the Wall Street Journal, familiar with the progress of the Chinese negotiations in the European capitals, reported that he apparently tried to convince his European counterparts that they should call for a ceasefire in Ukraine, recognizing the occupied Ukrainian territories as belonging to Russia. And this is what I have said, is that Russia is not going to leave without taking land from Ukraine. And a significant portion of it, right now, it's like 15%, which is thousands of miles, and taking the people that live there and moving them to Russia, making that land Russia, and taking all the resources that are there, the oil that's there, the natural resources that are there, and then being thereby able to tax those people under Russian law and say, hey, you're now part of Russia, whether you like it or not. And then actually remember that Russia has a draft when men become 18 and being able to make them part of the military, whether they like it or not. So when they're able to make that territory Russia, they then would be able to force those people to go to war for Russia, potentially against their own country, Ukraine, in the future if this were to happen. Just kind of think that scenario true, or think that through if this were to happen. Now, of course, Ukraine does not want to do this, but this is what China is saying now that they should do to end the war. Of course, this is a non-starter for Ukraine. They don't want to give up their land or their people or their resources. And this is why Dmitry Medvedev, Russia's former president in between Putin's reign, he was a president in the middle there, says the conflict could last decades. Decades. Yeah, so just think about that for a moment. Yeah. This also comes here as the US says Chinese hackers breached gear in Guam and key to Pacific defense. I'll get to this here in a second. As the US is also giving a warning here for Chinese hackers here in the United States. Take a listen here.
How concerned is the U.S. about the Chinese state-sponsored hacking group Bolt Tycoon's recent cyber attack targeting U.S. infrastructure? Does the U.S. believe that despite going after communication systems in Guam, that Taiwan is the real target?
I'm not going to speak to the last part. What I will say is that we are aware of recent activity by a People's Republic of China sponsored cyber actor to develop a presence in digital networks across the U.S. critical infrastructure sector. The U.S. government and close allies have released a joint cybersecurity advisory to help defenders identify and mitigate any such activity on their networks. And the U.S. intelligence community assesses that China almost certainly is capable of launching cyber attacks that could disrupt critical infrastructure services within the United States, including against oil and gas pipelines and rail systems. It's vital for government, network defenders, and the public to stay vigilant. It's why the U.S. government and a whole of government action has worked with the private sector to prepare for defenses, and we prepare private sector defenses, and we will continue to work with our allies and partners to address this critical issue.
Yeah, so they're warning that the Chinese could hack US infrastructure. We've already seen this happen from Russia. You guys can let me know your thoughts here on this. Will this be happening? Take a look here that the US says Chinese hackers have already breached gear in Guam, key to the Pacific defense. They're now releasing this information that the Chinese government espionage group has hacked into critical infrastructure in multiple locations, including the island territory of Guam, a key US outpost in any conflict involving Taiwan. US officials are now saying. Though there has been no destruction of electronic data or equipment yet, the intruders could be laying the groundwork to disrupt communications between North America and Asia in the event of a military confrontation, according to researchers at Microsoft, which detected the infiltration. The US agencies and those of America's closest allies issued a joint report advising organizations on how to hunt for signs of intrusion by the same group and how to shore up defenses. The Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance said that the facilities in Britain, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand could be targeted as well. The hacking activity by the group was first detected 2 years ago. They're just telling us this now. Microsoft and others said. The newest campaign uses compromised devices protected by the cybersecurity firm Fortinet, probably taking advantage of an unpublicized flaw in the company's software. And they have now notified those that were targeted. The same hacking group has used undisclosed flaws in other groups for previous campaigns, including a monitoring service and accessing software from Critics Systems. And this is why it's very hard to catch these guys. In this case, attributed to the Chinese group dubbed Volt Typhoon, detection is harder because the hackers use legitimate credentials and software commands to move around the networks, a technique known as, quote, living off the land. According to officials at the National Security Agencies and the FBI and the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. Honestly, so it kind of really makes you think that, in a sense, we are at war, a cyber war or a Cold War in some senses also, with Russia and China and North Korea in competing nations, at least cyber warfare for a while here, as Russia, for sure, if you've been watching my channel, you know this, we have had to fend off cyber attacks from Russia for a while. And now, as we're seeing from China here also. Yeah. So you guys can let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I will keep you up to date here with everything going on here in our country and around the world on a daily basis. So if you haven't yet, make sure to click the subscribe button down below and the bell icon so you don't miss out on any new videos that come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks so much for liking and sharing these videos. And here's some videos you should watch next. And Congress passed two major bills here right before leaving for town. Here's the video on that. And here's another bill that Congress some in Congress want to pass for a $1,518 raise for Social Security and people on government benefits. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.